Hello everybody, welcome to our webinar. We'll be starting in just a minute or two. So let me know if you can hear me okay. This is Padraig Berry here. Type your name into the chat box. You see it in the bottom right hand corner of your screen, just so that I know that you can hear me okay. Okay, I can see you all popping up there. Shauna, Mark, Nivan, Eugene, Deirdre, Louise, Karen. Yeah, it's great to have you with us. Thanks a lot for being here. Just one more minute to be with you. Just a quick question before we start. Think about what's the biggest challenge you're experiencing with your team or working with teams at the moment. What's the biggest, the one big thing, if you could maybe imagine you want to fix one thing, what would it be? What's the one big problem you have right now working with your existing team or with new teams? So you can type in there in the pop. If you go down to the chat box, you'll see the little balloon. If you click on that balloon, you'll see it gives you a choice, chat or a question. So you can pop in chat there if you want to just tell me what the biggest challenge you're faced with right now is. And as we go through the webinar, if you want to ask questions, please feel free to do so. And just pop them in there and we'll answer them as we go along if we think that we should answer them there and then. And if not, we'll answer them at the end. So we're ready. We're going to start. See us all here. I hope you can see us nice and clearly. So welcome to our webinar. And I'm Padraig Berry. This is my co-host, my guest today, Ronan Flood, Master Team Builder and Trainer. And just before we start, for those of you who don't know us, maybe a little bit of background. I've been at this business for about 20 years. I came out of the investment world, ran a number of companies, and moved in the whole area of human business performance improvement, which was sort of my passion. So I'm coming out of the world of business, very practical, very deliverable orientated, which sort of why I ended up actually with TTI, looking for tools and techniques and processes that actually work in the real world. I've worked with a lot of high-performing teams. I've come to a number of conclusions. We often talk about people, strategy, and execution. You'll be familiar with this. I believe that's the right order. I've said this on other webinars and other blogs and posts of mine. The single most important thing I believe that you can do if you want to have a high-functioning company is have a high-functioning team. The right people, if you have the right people in the right seats, i.e. people who match the jobs, they need to do the right things for sure. They need the right strategy. They need to do flawless execution. They need to do right. But the key is getting the right people in the right seats. And if you're looking for impact, if you're looking for deliverables, if you're looking for real results, I believe that's where the focus of attention needs to be. So I'm just one last quick point. I'm working with a client at the moment, and we have a goal. The objective for this client is we want to double the business every year for the next 5 years. And the one big strategic thing that we're doing to make that happen, there are loads of little things happening. The one big thing we're doing, we're building a new team, and we're already on track to achieve our first year's target. So I really, really believe in this thing of team, building team and high-performing teams, hence today's webinar. So much for me. Ronan, tell us all about you.
Well, I'm delighted, and thanks very much for the invitation to come along. I'm really delighted to be here. This topic around building teams is a real passion for me. I've been working with teams for the last 12 years in organizations, large organizations at home and abroad, basically helping them to improve their interpersonal communication within their teams and to accelerate towards performance. So like those teams would have been in services, financial services, FMCG, retail sectors, just to name a few. So I've worked with a number of clients in all of those areas.
It's interesting. You've worked mainly in large companies,
yes, yeah.
And I work mainly in SMEs, and we both have a shared experience. The shared experience is it doesn't really matter. Teams are teams are teams.
And actually the TTI tools, I've used them throughout the work that I've done with the teams since I've been working by myself. But the reason that I work in large organizations is because prior to working for myself, I worked in the corporate environment. I worked in various manufacturing roles and IT roles in the large multinationals in Ireland. So yeah, I've got a good understanding of the environment that my client organizations operate within, and the challenges and the sort of things that they have to bear in mind when I'm working with them.
And we're both completely adding them. If we talk about people, strategy, execution, it's people first. And if you want a world-class company, it's all about world-class teams. So what I'm going to do, so thanks, Ronan, for that.
Yep.
This webinar is going to take about 50 minutes, I reckon. We timed it, and we think that's what it'll take. We'll see. We're going to have an opportunity for Q&A at the end. As I say, type in your questions into the chat box. Click question and type a question, pop up in the question box for me, and we'll answer them as we go along, or we'll answer them at the end as appropriate. So I'm going to switch off the camera now, guys, and I'm going to go over to a screen share so you can actually see our screen and follow along. So bear with me just 1 second. And that you can see everything nice and clearly. So we're talking about 5 ways to guarantee team success. And we have them up there as build trust, address the team's fear of conflict, gain real commitment, enable peer accountability, and achieve collective success. And what we're offering you today as part of the webinar is we're offering you a gift. And the gift is a team report for the first 5 people who register for it. This will pop up at the end, so don't panic. At the end of the webinar, about maybe 10 minutes before the end of the webinar, the offer will pop up again over in the right-hand side of your screen, and you'll have an opportunity to register there. This report, it's a single science behaviour report. Obviously, we do 5 sciences, you know, in TTI, but it's a single science behaviour report. But it's a very insightful report and can really help you understanding your team dynamics. So, for example, it'll show you things like why people behave the way they do. If there's conflict, you know, why do some people have conflict with each other, or why do some people get on well with each other? If there is conflict, if there are gaps, how can you bridge these gaps? I mean, how can you improve the performance of the team by getting these gaps addressed? Helping each individual understand themselves, for sure, and understand each other as well. And that's like the first step to developing a high-performance team. Communications, how people should communicate and work with each other for success. And interesting, how people are adapting the roles and if they're experiencing stress. So if you see big adaptations on the report, it tells you that people are experiencing stress. So what the implications are for that. And then finally, I suppose, it identifies gaps, behavioural gaps. So if you have a team, for example, you might see all the people grouped in one area or grouped in different areas, and a better understanding of where you need different behaviours, if you do need different behaviours for success of the team. So the benefits are sort of insights into your team. You can get that immediately. Seeing the team dynamics, areas where people may be clashing, areas for improvement, and so on. In the long term, of course, it'll help you identify areas that need to be developed. And by the way, it'll help you when you're recruiting people in identifying what you actually require. So the eventual benefit you'd hope from this offer, this report that we're giving free today, is that you would have a strong team that understands their strengths and weaknesses, the individuals understand themselves, understand other people, how they communicate, how they work together, how they add value. So you end up with a high-performing team focused on achieving the goals and objectives of the organisation. So as I said, to claim the offer, don't forget what you got to do. About 10 minutes before the end, the offer will pop up. You go down the right-hand side, you register for it, and the first 5 people to get it will get it. First 5 people to register will get it. So it's 100% free. So let's get started. Quick one. If we say that the number 1 way to guarantee team success is to build trust, let me ask you a question. Have you ever been part of a team that worked? I mean, think about this for you, Rodney. Have you ever been part of a team that worked?
Yeah,
you know,
it was great.
Yeah, where everybody clicked, where everybody sort of was pulling their own weight, producing extraordinary results. So the question is, and I'm asking this to our audience here, what was going on? What allowed this to be? You know, why was that team different? Just think about it in your own head. You don't need to answer, just think about it in your own head. What was different about that team that they functioned so well, as opposed to the teams that we normally experience? And then think about your own team. Is your own team working as well? Do you know how well your team is working? So these are questions I think you want to just reflect on as we go through the process. Just reflect on this and think about it. What is a high performing team? What was going on in the high performing teams? How does your own team compare to it? I mean, it seems to me to be part and parcel of working with others. So quite often people don't get on, and they don't work well together. The question again, as well, is why is this? So I think this is what we're going to try to answer today, some of these questions. I mean, we believe, as I said to you earlier, that the key issue here is getting the right people. That's the key. Getting the right people, getting them in the right seats, doing the right things and all that kind of good stuff. And if you can do that, and people can understand themselves and understand others and their unique strengths and their abilities and their weaknesses and how they add value and so on and so forth, then you can end up with a really high-performing team. I mean, Patrick Lencioni's book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, which this webinar is pretty much structured around, provides great insights into some of the problems teams can have. And I make the point here, no matter how successful the team. I mean, Ronan, you've been working with really successful teams in large organizations for the last 10 years. And I know you've built high-performing teams using self-awareness, improving in personal communications and so on. And you like the book as well. And you also think that even successful teams can have these challenges.
Oh, absolutely. And for starters, we're a nation of storytellers. So what I really like about that particular book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, is it's a fable. It's a story of a CEO taking over an organization that takes a step back to see how the organization is operating first and foremost. And it weaves all of those dysfunctions into the story. So it just makes, as I was reading it, I was reminded of so many situations in my own career and in client organizations. So it makes it very accessible, And the main dysfunctions that we're talking about are absence of trust, fear of conflict, lack of commitment, avoidance of accountability, and inattention to results.
Yeah, okay.
So what we're planning on doing is flipping that on its head and trying to be a little bit more positive about it and say, right there, that's what the dysfunction is, what we need to do in order to make our team better. So those things are to build trust, obviously, to address the team's fear of conflict, to gain real commitment, to enable peer accountability, and achieve collective success. And already I'm starting to see that that's going to touch on some of the things the questions that the guys are coming up with, like accountability. Deirdre saying accountability is her main problem, as is Eugene. Sense of urgency, Sean. This is going to be useful for you guys. So.
I think it's interesting. I just think what people are saying here. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all the issues that are up here are issues we all face in our own team. I know right here in our own organization, we have these problems for all our teaching and all our knowledge, and we experience the exact same problem. So even teams that know it don't necessarily do it. Okay, so we've made sort of a big promise of stuff we're going to try and share with you today. But the core idea, just think about this as an idea. The core idea underpinning all of this is this concept of honesty. Building honest conversations, having honest dialogue, honest conversations with yourself and with others. We believe this is the crux of the problem, that people just don't address things. Maybe for fear of conflict, maybe for lots of reasons. We'll come to these in a while. But let's run through it and see, can we throw some light on the subject. So the first one is the absence of trust. And of course, our answer is to build trust. So Roland, give me your Tupney Halfpennyworth. What do you think about this thing of building trust?
Well, it's the most prominent dysfunction for starters. When the whole point of
what do you mean by trust?
Well, we mean by having confidence in that the intentions of your colleagues in the team are good, right. Showing up as you are, with all the warts and all, and asking for help if you need to ask for help. It's the crux of the issue when you bring it down to it's vulnerability. And it's our opinion of whether vulnerability is a strength or a weakness. Yeah, okay. Actually, Brené Brown deals really well with that in her book, Daring Greatly. And she looks at it from the perspective of leadership, but also from the perspective of parenthood, which is, it's really interesting.
I haven't read it.
It's very good. And it looks at vulnerability as a strength, and tees it up as a strength. Anybody who I've referred that book onto in leadership has found it really useful. Okay, good. Because there's some really good exercises at the back of the book as well.
Okay, that's one for me to go on the bookshelf.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Dad. By the way, just before I forget, guys, the slide deck and all our notes will be available. So everybody who's registered for this will automatically get a copy of all our notes. So everything we're talking about today and all the slides, you get this automatically as a PDF. I don't know if you are a fan of Leonard Cohen, are you?
yeah.
Good, okay, well, I mean, as am I. And Leonard Cohen, in one of his songs, he says, it's the cracks that let the light in. And so I think this notion of great leaders build trust, not walls. You talked about vulnerability, and I mentioned honesty. I mean, great leaders lead from a position of vulnerability and honesty. I mean, if you look at teams, a huge amount of effort and energy is wasted trying to manage interactions with each other, like people managing their interactions with others. I mean, if you look at great teams, I think one of the characteristics I've always seen in great teams is they know their strengths. Each individual knows their strengths and weaknesses, and each individual knows the other person's strengths and weaknesses. Mm-hmm. So there's no politics, no playing games, there's no trying to pretend. They're just getting on with the job. And you always see a successful team. They are getting on with the job. They're all doing their bit. They know where they're contributing. And when they have a disagreement, they're not afraid to. I often make the case, we talk about conflict later on, but they're not afraid to bang the table.
Yeah.
But come back to this. So, I mean, so if you're a leader of a team, how do you do this? Well, it's very simple. I mean, you have to be open, honest, vulnerable yourself first. And that creates an environment that allows others to do the same. Like when I'm facilitating workshops, people are often surprised at how much I share. And the reason I share, the only purpose of sharing really is to allow other people to share. Yeah. So if you're open and you're vulnerable and you say, well, this is me, warts and all, as you said, then other people say, well, actually, I've got a few challenges myself as well, and they can be open and vulnerable and can talk about it. So, I think, and that, of course, creates an environment where you can have conflict, healthy conflict, where you can have creativity, where you can have meaningful discussion and so on.
For sure. Absolutely.
So we've got 3 tips here for building trust in the workplace.
Absolutely. The first one of those is be consistent. Okay. So, and by this, I mean, be consistent in mood, in action, and with everybody. So the thing is that when people see different parts of different style or sides of the same person, it causes stress, it causes discomfort.
But of course, I mean, if they understand, again, if they understand that person's style, I'm high D, for example, way up there, I'm high resourceful. If people understand this kind of thing about you, they understand your behavior, their driving forces or whatever it is, they have a better sense of what's going on.
Absolutely. And the key point in this is that it's in line with your preference. So if we're going to use the insights speak, your natural style, whatever your natural style is, that's good. That's what you are. Work with that. Yeah. But be that all the time.
But be that all the time.
All the time with who, because whether you're banging the table all the time, people will expect you to bang the table. So it becomes not such a big thing. So we get the
point. Yeah, get the point. Okay. Number 2, there, foster a sense of accountability.
This is the old the acronym, DWYSYWD. Do what you say you will do. If you say you're going to do something, follow up on it and follow through. Like there's an old buddy, well, he's a colleague of mine. He would have been a boss of mine from SAP, Liam Ryan. He actually won the most trusted leader of 2016 in the Great Places to Work. Okay. And in his interview with who was it? It was the Irish Times. He basically said that concept, that idea of following through on what you said you would do, that is core and fundamental to building trust, and I absolutely agree with that.
I saw that interview actually.
Yeah,
I saw it noted. Okay, communicate the vision.
Yeah,
I'm a great believer in this. I'm big into strategy, I'm big into vision, I'm big into sharing this with people.
I am absolutely. And I take it a step further. I'll even go as far as to say include the team in the formulation of that vision.
Yeah,
because if the team is involved in the creation of the vision, they already know it and they can communicate it as well. So it becomes a two-way communication rather than just the leader. But if it's a case that the leader has come up with the vision, it is absolutely imperative that everybody understands where they sit in that and what it means, or what are we trying to achieve within this team.
Okay, got it. Okay, good. Okay, we're saying here the sense of trust is critical to effective team success. We're saying, in fact, that's maybe the single most important thing is the foundation stone.
Yeah.
And of course, unfortunately, for any of you who are listening out there who are in leadership positions, it starts with you. It starts the leader. You have to be consistent, to be accountable, and you've got to communicate the vision.
So take your mask off.
Yeah, that's it. Take the mask off for sure. Okay. If you're just joining us, I see a couple of people have just joined. If you just joined us, we're looking at 5 ways to guarantee team success. I'm Padraig Berry with my guest, Ronan Flood, Master Team Builder.
Yeah.
And again, don't forget that we're offering a free report, the first 5 people who register. And you'll automatically get a copy of this webinar as well for having registered. It'll come to you. So at the end of the webinar, about 10 minutes before the end, the offer will pop up, and just pop away and register there for it. And don't be afraid to ask any questions. We love to hear questions. So if you have any question, any value you want to add, any points you want to make, or any experience you have, type them in there at the chat box and let us have them. And we'll include them or get back to them at the end. So, build trust was number 1. Address the team's fear of conflict is number 2, and to guarantee success. And this is one that I am big into.
Louise has this.
Louise.
Pay attention, ears open.
Yeah. You know? So I mean, I'm a really believer in this one because, in fact, even though I'm high D, I hate conflict. I hate confrontation. And of course, I'm in the leadership position here in my own organisation, or at least the positional leadership position. And this is a real challenge for me. I don't like conflict, and I think, in fairness to most people, this is true of most people. We don't like conflict, but we have to recognise it's unavoidable. If you're going to have a group of people together, it follows, as night follows day, you're going to have conflict. The question is, how do you deal with it? And the way you deal with it determines your long-term success as a team. So I believe, again, I think this is true even in your personal relationship. Think about your own personal relationships. It stems from a sense of artificial harmony or desire to keep the peace, no matter what. And I have a great story about a gentleman in his early 90s that my mum used to know. And he announced to her one day that he'd left his wife, he'd moved out, and he'd moved into an apartment. And she was shocked. She said, "In your 90s, what are you doing?" And the comment he made was, "Well, we haven't got on for a long time, and really and truly, what I want is a sense of peace. I'm fed up keeping the peace. I want a sense of peace." And I think a lot of people in teams and in relationships are trying to maintain a sense of harmony, to keep the peace at any cost. And the downside of this, the unfortunate side of this is, of course, you don't have productive debate. You don't have the kind of conflict that you actually need, where you have real conversation, get stuff really out on the table, the stuff that really matters, so that you can solve the problems. You never actually really address the problems. So the question is, how do you do this? How do you actually put stuff out on the table and address it in a meaningful way?
Well, it's related to the point that I made already about the vulnerability. Just as vulnerability or your opinion of vulnerability impacts on your ability to build trust, your opinion on whether conflict is a good or a bad thing will impact on whether you're going to address it or not. You know, if you, as you say, if you don't like conflict and you see conflict as a negative thing, you're going to avoid it like the plague.
That's a really good point, Ronan.
You know. So it starts with redefining what we mean by conflict.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. I take the point 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do tend to think of conflict as a negative thing.
Yeah.
Where I see it as an opportunity or a positive thing, perhaps a bit different. So let's have a look at this. Sure. The 12 tips for healthy and productive conflicts. We look at a few of them. Okay, recognize the importance of conflict for productivity.
Yeah, you've already said something as well that's really important, and the fact that you're going to have it.
Yeah,
you will have conflict. It's not a question that it may happen. It will at some point.
Okay, so how you address it is the key. Okay, fair enough. Understand and communicate your own conflict style. And number 3 as well, get to know the conflict style of 3 team members. Maybe you might just talk about these for a second.
Yeah, I mean, having an understanding of your own style is really important, and it's in any of the workshops that you or I do, it's always a starting point. Understand yourself first, and then understand your opposite. So getting a good understanding of what your style is and how that impacts on other people and how other people impact on you really is a fantastic place to start, because it can point to pinch points or buttons that you have that can be pushed.
But isn't this really
aware of?
Isn't it really important? I'm just jumping in there for a second. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Isn't it really important here? I mean, to have an understanding. I mean, you talk about having an understanding of yourself and understanding of others. If you don't have something like, for example, a psychometric profile, if you don't have tools, if you don't have something, how do you do that?
It's difficult.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
It's very difficult unless you're meditating.
Yeah,
and you're actually very self-aware. No, in the perspective of my clients, they always find that it is so useful to have in black and white a report that explains very precisely and also very accurately what their behavioral preferences are. It's really, really useful.
Yeah, well, actually, you look,
I
I've popped up a slide there. This is just a sample from the report that we're offering today. This freebie we're offering at the end of the webinar, and the idea of having, I just want you to imagine this for a moment. Imagine you understand yourself really, really well, your behavior style or whatever. And imagine you have up on the wall a chart where you see everybody else's style. And imagine that every time you go to meet somebody, you know, look at this, we're stuck on the wall on the way into their office, we're stuck wherever. And you're constantly aware of people's behavior styles, of driving forces or whatever, and how to communicate with them effectively. Surely that must be very, very helpful.
Well, I actually did a piece of work only in November last year where it was a fantastic day. And basically, we went into one of these sort of incubation areas where they had like areas, like all the walls were white paint that you can draw on. So they had an artist in and was doing all the output from the team. But they also did the team wheel on the wall. They drew the team wheel up on the wall. And I had a meeting with the leader afterwards. And maybe some months, I think it was in January actually, I sat down with him. And he had on his desk in his office a picture of his team. It was in a frame,
cool.
Three pieces. A picture of the team, a picture of one of the illustrations that was on the wall, and his team wheel. The team wheel of the guys who work for
I
them.
actually know a company, believe it or not, I actually know a company, this is a fact, I accept they're in the United States, but I know a company, and outside everybody's office, just beside the door, they have the person's behavioural profile and their driving forces. Those two up there on the wall, which is very, very helpful. By the way, guys, just before I forget, we're displaying people's comments on the screen. So if you see it, that's why. So you might see people's comments popping up on the screen. So keep the comments coming. They're really honest. I've got a couple in here. When you get honest with each other, you always earn respect from one another. That's for sure. And that's coming from Ivan. That's absolutely for sure, Ivan. God knows we struggle with it in here in the office, and we work hard at it, don't we? Eugene, every team needs an identity, purpose, and vision for sure. We're going to be talking about that. Deirdre, I agree with sharing the bigger picture with the team and the company's goals helps motivated teams for sure. Absolutely for sure. And we really, really, we talk about people, strategy, and execution. And strategy for us is a really important part. That everyone knows we talk about this in a few minutes in the webinar. Everyone knows where they're going and why they're doing what they're doing, where their job fits in, and so on. And Sean comment here, recognize the gap between where we are and high performance for sure. And again, we're going to be talking about that in a minute. So we are. So bear with us. We're going to come to very good points, guys. Thanks a lot for those. And we're going to be talking directly to some of those points in just a few minutes. So just continue on here. Look for opportunity. 12 tips for a healthy and productive conflict. Look for opportunity and set the ground rules and define expectations for conflict.
Yeah, I think that's coming back to the point of that definition of is conflict a good or a bad thing? If it's a good thing, then every conflict is an opportunity for the team to grow and to deal with the issue and to put the issue to bed, leave it behind us so that we don't end up 91 moving out and getting our own sense of peace.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, yeah, fair enough. I suppose it set the ground with me. I think one of the really important things here, and we talk about it again later on, one of the really important things is avoid getting personal. We talk about it later on when we get down to number 10.
Yeah.
That makes it possible, in fact, to have these kind of conversations.
Absolutely, and I think they're very much related to the number 6.
Well, number 7 there, empowering employees to share the heat of the moment. Yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's really important because it speaks to what the culture of the team is. Is the culture of the team that conflict is accepted and expected? If it's accepted and expected, and of course when things get heated, I want to have my say, and I'll give you my say, you know. And I know that you won't take it personally because the culture of the team is such that it's expected and it's accepted.
Yeah.
I think it's really important. Now, obviously, you've got to be really careful with that. You know, like when things get heated, they can spiral. So, and that's where the leader comes in.
Well, I can say here that as a leader of my team here, I try to give people permission to voice their opinions on an issue so it can get resolved. Having said that, I got to acknowledge, quite honestly, that often what happens, that my own triggers, my own buttons are pushed, and I respond inappropriately, and then all of a sudden the whole thing has a little meltdown.
Yeah.
You know?
But that's important to do that. because then you can at least identify, yeah, that was my button. You've said that, you pushed my button.
Yeah,
you know?
okay.
And
well, another one, I just see a comment here from coming in here. It begins understanding yourself, understanding your triggers. Oh, that's just exactly what you're saying, yeah. Realizing people are just mirrors for you. Manage yourself and how your team members prefer to be communicated with. It's an ongoing journey for sure. Frank taking things, that's from the event, Frank taking things personally, for sure. I mean, interesting. I mean, the number 9 here, are you really listening to what people have to say? And of course, that's half the problem, isn't it? We're trying to, this trap of artificial harmony, we're not really listening. We're not really trying to say, what's the person saying to me, really?
Yeah.
We don't really want to hear it, do we?
And I don't think we're actually listening for it. I think a lot of the time we're listening for the next thing, the next question, or the next thing we want to say.
Yeah.
And in for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes, again, you mentioned the point earlier of you've seen conflict as a negative thing. I think unless you're ready for this, unless you're open to this, you've discussed this clearly with the team, it's hard to have these conversations. It's hard to take it on board the way we're talking about taking
absolutely.
it on board.
And it's right back to that point again, set the ground rules and define expectations for conflict.
Yeah.
And that has to be done around the table with everybody in the team signing up to that. This is the way we're going to operate.
And of course, again, to get back to TTI tools for a second, yeah. I mean, the great thing about the TTI tools is, and I've personal experience of this, here in my own team, that you can say, well, actually, you know, that's you being whatever, or that's him being this, or this is me being this, or yeah, of course, I should have done that, but that's my ex coming out. Not as an excuse, but as an acknowledgement and an effort to depersonalise the situations. So take number 10, avoid getting personal, but equally avoid personalising things with other people. So when you're talking to somebody else, don't personalise with them, but don't take it personally either.
Absolutely. That's really important, and that comes from an understanding of how other people styles
and then that brings up agreements. And the second and third, you peg the second one, take out the person. Very easy. And that's easy to do. Okay, maybe that's enough. Tips. Maybe move on to the next one. What's right? Got to get into there. Vasily said, Moscow. How great it is to have you with us, Vasily. He said, I've seen some things on the page on the previous slide. What was that? But Vasily, you're going to get a complete copy of the webinar when it's finished. So don't worry, you'll get it all. I'm going to hear a few comments from people. The sound has gone bad. Any problem there? We're happy to get monitored here. Okay, we're going to slow down and we're going to watch it. Okay, maybe just wait and see. Does it improve a little bit? You might give me a bit of feedback there. If it stays bad, please tell us. Thanks a lot, guys. So we're here looking at the 5 ways to guarantee team success. I'm Pádraig Berry and I'm with my guest, Roland Flood, Master Trainer. And don't forget, guys, we have a special offer for you today, a team report and that you can use to help you build a successful team. Okay, we're looking at number 3 of the 5 ways to guarantee success. Number 3 is called gain real commitment. Interestingly, we all know that when you have, thanks Deirdre, I see Eugene, yeah, great, thanks guys. The sound is improved now. Maybe we're just too near the microphone or whatever. Commitment's a real issue. Let's just talk about it for a moment. I had a boss of mine once said to me, he said, you know, Pádraig, he said, you're committed up to your ankles. Mm-hmm. And I actually was quite obsessed at the time when he said it to me. But I reflected on it, and of course, I realised that he was correct. I didn't believe in the plan. I didn't believe in what we were doing, and I left the company. I was actually committed to up to my ankles, and he recognised it was having an effect on the team. So people who lack commitment at work have a negative impact on the team. They have a negative impact on morale. They have a negative impact on performance. I mean, Lencioni says people aren't going to hold themselves accountable if they haven't cleanly bought into the same plan. So this is really important that people buy into the plan, that they are committed. They understand where they're going, where the company's going, what their part is, and so on and so forth. I mean, a lack of commitment leads to a decline of performance among the overall team, for sure. And so this thing of building commitment is really, really important. And I want us to just have a quick look here at the 10 tips. We won't look at all, we'll just go a few of them. The ones we think are important, the 10 tips for building commitments. So, Ronan, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, for starters, I'm in full agreement that if someone is not fully committed, it is going to have a negative impact on the team. And actually, I flip it because that's what Lencioni is saying. They're not going to hold themselves accountable. But there's another book that I read last year, The Reinventing Organizations by a guy called Frederic Laloux.
Yes, great book.
It is. It's a really good book, and it's revolutionary. Actually, obviously, reinventing organizations. Basically, he's was studying these emergent new types of organizations that have a flatter hierarchy. In fact, have very little hierarchy at all. It's all small, self-managed teams, and it's built on what we're talking about here. It's absolutely built on commitment. Yeah. And the commitments of every single individual within the organization towards the overall purpose. So if this becomes the most important thing in that type of organization.
Well, for sure. I mean, teams that don't commit are ambiguous, you know. They're ambiguous about goals, or ambiguous about direction. For sure, I mean, I'm thinking about the kind of team you're talking about. If they're not committed, how can they make decisions? You know, how can they move forward? I mean, you have paralysis by analysis, and so everybody's there, and nobody's really committed. Say, yeah, we're going to make it happen. We're going to go forward. So for sure, I mean, if you're not committed, I suppose confidence will be low. People will be fearing failure, and of course, the downside of that is full potential for sure will not be reached. Okay, so let's go to a few of the 10 tips. And see how to do it. The first one here is ensure team members feel valued. So, okay, what's your thought?
Well, for starters, I think the first point on this is this is really linked to a clear line to the overall vision, and how what I'm doing today is going to get us there. And I'm reminded of the old adage, you know, the janitor in the NASA. Who's asked, you know, what's your job here? He says, I help put people in space.
Yeah.
You know, because he keeps the place clean so that the guys can drive the machines through the warehouse, so that they can get the parts to the rocket, so the rocket gets built. So that clear line of vision towards what I'm doing today and the impact that has on the overall purpose of the organization.
And that gets back to the point earlier that you made, and I believe in completely, that everybody must be involved in defining where the organisation is going. I mean, we say the right people on the bus in the right seats. And once the right people on the bus in the right seats, they decide with those people where the bus is going, and they understand their part in getting the bus to where we want to go. I just see a comment there from Fiona saying, asking for the team, name of the team, and I see an answer there, Patrick Leone's 5 dysfunction of a team. So we send you okay, you want to get an email there from us. I just said there, you get an email from us afterwards with the details on it, Fiona. Interestingly, just getting back to this thing of making sure everybody feels valued. One of the things that you are model DEEP, DEAP, discover, engage, advance, perform, the TTI model. And one of the things that's really important about that is that we get this engagement, and people do feel valued, because once they join an organisation, you put a development plan in place for them that aligns with the organisational goals. So people know the gaps between where they are and what the job requires, how they're going to bridge those gaps. They understand how the job adds value. They understand how they're going to develop to move into other roles, how to become superior performers, how the team will become a superior team, and so on. So this is really, really important. And again, we're a great believer in the whole thing of development planning as part of it. Okay, so let's look at number 3. I like this one. Build clarity on roles and responsibilities. This is a really hot subject, or a hot topic of mine, if you wish. And I've believed this all my life. Anybody who knows me knows I've got benchmarking coming out my ears. I really, really believe in benchmark. I really believe in defining what a role is, what its responsibilities are, what key accountabilities are, matching people to it appropriately, playing to people's natural strengths and their talents, knowing what they're passionate about, and shaping roles around them. So I believe as much as possible you have to aim to align roles and responsibilities around everybody's strengths and interests. You know, and by the way, not just their current role, but their future role, so they can see progression, and you can benchmark against that as well. They can see progression, see where they're going.
And that starts to answer the question. I think it was Frank had the question earlier on about the gap between where we are right now and what superior performance is. That's the key to that.
Yeah,
on having a clear understanding of what the roles are and what is expected within those roles, and how much of a gap there is between you as the incumbent and that expectation. And then also having a development plan towards that, it instills a huge amount of confidence in the people who are there, even if they are not at the races yet.
Okay.
You know, so
okay, there's just one other one there I want to comment on, and then we leave these ones. Give people permission to fail. I mean, I think what's worth doing is worth doing well, but what's worth doing well is worth doing poorly first. And you know, I mean, if people are afraid to fail, nothing will happen, guys. So so much for the 10 tips for building commitments that we want to look at. Again, we are, as you know, guys, we're talking about 5 ways to guarantee team success. I'm here with my guest, Ronan Flood, master team builder, and we are looking at how you build a team, a high-performing team. And we're offering, as part of this, we're offering today a free behavioural team report for up to 5 team members, worth €1,000. It's available now. So you should see the offer popping up down on your on the right-hand side of your screen. Please register. The first 5 to register get it. And also, please keep the answers or the questions and the Q&A thing going for you. We really like it. The comments, keep them coming in. They're really, really good. Thanks very much. Yeah, really, really helpful. Really helped us actually as we're going through it. Okay. Enabling peer accountability. Excuse me. Building trust, addressing fear of conflict, gaining real commitment, and then accountability. We really, really believe in accountability, and we really believe in this thing of peer review and peer accountability. So let's tell me a quick story. You have a story for me, Ron, on avoidance of accountability. Yeah?
That's it. Hidden away in a far corner of Ireland, there's a small team working on a project for a large organisation. The team gets on well. They value their relationship with one another, and they don't engage in gossip or office politics. After some time working on one particular assignment, they notice that Sally doesn't seem to be engaged or committed or working to her previous standards.
Okay.
So the other team members figure that she must have a lot going on, so they decide not to push her too hard or say anything.
Now this is interesting, isn't it? Because this is what we all experience. We see somebody not performing for whatever reason, we say, oh, they're under pressure, there's this going on.
There's something going on.
Yeah, we leave them alone.
Yeah, let's let it lie for
a minute and see how it goes.
But they find that over time, avoiding the problem doesn't make it better. So Sally's lack of commitment gradually becomes an avoidance of accountability.
And this is interesting, isn't it? Because often one dysfunction leads to another dysfunction, leads to another dysfunction.
Absolutely. So herself, her boss, her co-workers, nobody's doing anything about it. And nobody's taking accountability for her
lack of performance.
Exact lack of performance. So they see a team member not giving their best effort, compromising the project's end result, and what do? They say nothing.
Yeah.
Why? They get on well. They don't want to disturb the peace. They say nothing. It's back to that thing you were saying. I like that term you use. That artificial harmony.
Yeah.
It's right back to that.
And of course, what happens then? Of course, is no doubt frustration builds up.
Yeah.
A bit of backbiting.
And potentially damage to their valued relationship, which we already said that they all get on so like a house on fire. You know, it's really interesting when you see this, isn't it? And this would be a classic story, wouldn't it? So let's talk about how do you address these things? How do you improve accountability? How do you not let something like that happen? And we've got 6 ways here. We just want to talk about a couple of them. Develop a sense of shared purpose. We've talked about already. Yeah. We know this. I mean, if everybody knows where we're going, and we're all going in the same direction, accountability follows for sure. Focusing on why we're trying to do what we're doing, why it needs to be done, the benefits of carrying it out, a clear plan, everybody participating. That really creates buy-in, and it makes it very, very hard for people to dodge the accountability, doesn't it? Absolutely.
You know? Okay.
The second thing then is to create specific, clear, defined goals. And what we're always saying is start at the end.
Yeah.
So what's the vision of
line up the dominoes?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What are we trying to achieve? What does it look like? And then work backwards.
Okay.
You know,
focus on the positives. It's about improvement, not punishment.
Yeah,
I like that. You know, that's a good one. Number 4 here, flexibility works. Give your team member space. I really believe in this. I mean, it's easy for me to say this. I'm not sure I always do it so well, but trying to hear everybody's voice, trying to listen respectfully, and respectful is an interesting word. Respectere, you know, the Latin, and respect is all about seeing persons over the first time, not prejudging, hearing what they have to say, paying attention. And I think that, you know, once you've done that, once you've heard what people say, once you've got your plans developed, really giving people space, don't micromanage, you know, give them support as necessary, trust in their capabilities, trust in their creativity, allow them to get on with it. There's another one here, provide regular feedback. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I actually think that is absolutely key. But it's not formalized. I think it's really important to build really strong relationships within the team, so that feedback is sought and given daily.
And it's interesting. I remember the 5 to 1
over coffee.
Over a cup of coffee. I remember the 5 to 1. 5 positive things for every negative thing.
Yeah,
and it's important to give feedback on the positive things as well, things that are working.
But I don't want to skip over that one there, because that's really important. When things aren't going right, pause, reflect, and make changes. That is a really important point. Actually, I follow a guy on Instagram called Gary Vaynerchuk, and he put a picture up today of that. He's saying it's all, basically what he said was, it's all about adjusting along the way, not making the perfect call, right? So you can't be perfect all the time, but you have to be awake. You have to pay attention to what's going on with the team.
It's interesting. A couple of comments here. Deirdre says, importantly, personal relations and professional relationships separate for sure. I agree with you 100%, Deirdre. And by the way, guys, I'm just looking at the report. There's only one report left. So for people who are signing up, it's now or never. Yeah. I go for it. Okay, I like it. Thanks for coming back. I just want to make one last comment here on this excuse me, accountability issue. The leader must lead on this one. If he's holding people accountable, the minute something goes wrong, if he's holding people accountable, then everybody else will hold everybody else accountable. They would say, well, he's going to do it, I might as well do it anyway. So they engage straight away with somebody else in holding them accountable. If they think that the leader's never going to hold people accountable, they say, well, why would I? Yeah. So it's really important to lead on this one.
And it's also related to the originally, when we were saying way back, we said we're going to set out the ground rules for conflict. Yeah. If we say this is what we're going to do, and it's again related to the do what you say you will do. If we say we're going to do this as a leader, the responsibility falls with you to hold the space where that can happen, where that conflict is able to happen, and where those conversations can be had.
Thanks, Sean. See, you got one. I'm happy for you. Okay. 5 ways to guarantee success. Limited offer. Last one, guys. So if you want it, grab it. Okay, I'm here with Ronan Flood, Master Team Builder, and we're talking about the 5 ways to guarantee team success, and we're looking at the last one, achieve collective success. And I just want to talk about this for a moment, maybe a quick story. Once upon a time, there was a man named Bill. So here's the story, guys. And we'll all know this, you'll all have this experience, I'm sure of it. So Bill was hired for his impressive CV. He had great education, extensive relevant experience, high IQ. He looked like the perfect candidate. I mean, he was driven, he was high D, he was high commanding, high resourceful, and the team think, wow, this guy's going to be incredible. He's really going to get things done. And I've got personal experience as a case study that we can come to and work with right now, this very, very issue, and I've identified with them the challenge we're going to face here. So what happened? Well, a few short months into Bill's appointment, problems started to emerge in the team. The atmosphere changed, collaboration stopped, and became a more competitive environment, and everyone seemed to be looking out for number one. It's interesting, they began for their own bonus and their own individual career goals ahead of the overall organizational and team success. Secrecy started, people stopped sharing information. Well, why would I tell him? He's only going to try and beat me. And it's a classic case, I suppose, of inattention to results stemming from status and ego, leading to a lack of collective success. And our answer, of course, is to achieve collective success, you have to do something different. So I mean, let me ask you a question, Ronan. What does a team that doesn't suffer from collective inattention to detail, like what do they look like? A team that is being successful collectively, what do they look like?
Well, they're doing all the stuff that we spoke about so far, because as you said, like each one of these, this is not like I like that, I like this, I won't do the other 3. We must be doing all of these 5. If you want to build a high performing team, all of these 5 dysfunctions need to be addressed. So if you're doing all the other things, then this happens. Because we're looking at the goals. We've got the goals set out. Everybody has bought in. We're holding each other accountable for them, and we're achieving them.
Okay, let's look at a few of them. So, okay, I believe, by the way, a lot is about having clear plans, objectives, watching the metrics, and sharing results. But we come through it. Okay, get to know one another. The first step in building an active team. In fact, somebody in the office just said this to me the other day in our own organisation, and they said, we don't actually do anything as a team. that we don't go out, we don't really know each other. And I've written down here, I want to read something else, knowing each other's name is not enough. You know, and I was flabbergasted once in a conversation with somebody I'd known for years and years and years. To find out he's a family, yeah. You know, that he was married and he had children and so on and so forth. And I realised that we'd never ever talked about any of these issues. I didn't really know the person at all. So again, and I just made the comment here, the psychometric reports are very helpful in this regard. They really help people.
And that is the feedback that I have got from any of the workshops I have done with teams in many different functions. That it's fantastic to have it written down, black and white, where you can compare and sit down with a colleague and say, look, here's where our clash is originating from, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I won't talk about it, but I've already talked about setting clearly defined goals, exactly, targets, celebrating small success. We know what that is. I don't need to say anything on that. I think that the focus on effort made, just want to make one comment here. Sure. I think it's really important to identify when things are going well and say, you know, say you did a good job there. Don't say, listen, you're a great guy, you're a great gal, you're doing a great job. Be specific. So focus on specific things that you want to improve. We all know the research on this, but I think it's important to praise and focus on specific outcomes, specific results. Say that you're doing a good job there.
And even from the team's perspective, it's really important. It's part of the team's story. The team is, if they're achieving what they're saying they're achieved, that's a win. So in order for the rest of the business to understand what sort of value this team is adding, they need to tell their story, and that's a piece of feedback that I get from most of the teams that I've worked with. We're not telling our story enough.
Well, interesting. I just see a comment in there from Nivan saying use the Johari window. I'm sure you're all familiar with the Johari window, guys. And it is a great way, of course, self-revelation and then feedback from others as you expand that area where that we all understand, that we all know, and squeeze down the area that we don't know, we don't understand. It's a great model, the Johari window for use in this area. Encourage people to share results publicly. I really believe in this. You know, we actually run mastermind groups where we have peer reviews and people have to stand up and say, I did or I didn't do it. You know, sharing results makes it more likely that team members will stick to their deadlines. Absolutely. They hold each other accountable. And by the way, just to make a point here, having team members hold each other accountable is much more important, much more effective than you, the leader, holding people accountable. Peer review, peer feedback. Very hard to stand up in front of your peers 1 or 2 or 3 months in a row and say, I didn't do it. Really, really hard.
But on that point, on the encourage people to share the results publicly, in that interview with Liam Ryan, he actually brought, and I wasn't aware that they were doing this in SAP, they actually have a meeting of all of the CEOs that's televised, and any employee can tune in and look at to see. So basically, they're looking at the achievements of each sector within the business, and what's working, what's not working. Well, and that is televised. It's brilliant.
Yeah, that brings me to keep focusing on the metrics. Yeah. And you know, if you can't measure guys, it's not real. You really have to, if you want people to overcome this attention to results and think about collective success, you really, really have to focus on metrics. And I've written down here, I want to really do something. The teams that are too individually focused don't function as well as teams that work for the collective good of the group. I mean, it sounds obvious, but we don't always pay attention to that. Individuals working for their own individual goals and objectives is not as effective as a group of people working for a collective result. But you have to have metrics around that. There's a really interesting article by Lorna Rickard by BEY Network. She mentioned that great teams focus on what benefits both the teams and themselves. So having everybody's goals and objectives written down, have them clearly up on the wall, on a project sheet, on a Kanban or whatever, is really, really important and really helpful in that regard. So guys, that sort of brings us to the end of the webinar on how to build a guarantee team success. Based around Patrick Lencioni's book. I want to thank you all for your contribution. It was really useful and really appreciated. I see all the, do we have any reports left? They've all been gone. They've all been taken. So great. Everybody's grabbed one. The first 5 have grabbed one. I look forward to sending you a link and helping you do that with your team. If anybody's any other questions, please feel free to ask them now. We're happy to answer them. Yeah, you're welcome, Sean. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Louise. Really appreciate it. Great having you with us. So anybody, anything they want to raise, any particular questions that we didn't ask through it? No, that's sort of it, I think. So we're going to wrap it up. Thanks, Eugene. Glad you enjoyed it. Nice to have you with us. So we're going to wrap it up, guys. And remember that you will get a copy of the slide deck and all our notes. Everything we said here has been recorded. It will go into a document, and you're going to get a copy of this by email in the next couple of days. So you'll have all the notes. I hope you all enjoyed the webinar. We look forward to having you on our next one. And we're just going to wrap it up. Sorry to run it just a few minutes over. But we look forward to having you on the next one. And to those of you who grabbed the free team assessment, well done. Congratulations. And we'll be in touch shortly. Thanks very much. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.